Hello, everyone. You're listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. We are the #1 internet singles platform, although we have married people that listen to us all the time because we have great shows. And we talk about relationships and we talk about business. We have authors. We have an abundance of subjects that we talk about. But today we are on the business lunch hour, and it's the late lunch hour. So we're going to have to get busy and get moving. But before we start, let's do our homework. Our website is goingsolomedia.com, right above me here. And then also, if you want to email me, I love to get your emails. It's goingsolonetwork@gmail.com. I am Cece Shatz. If you don't know me, I am the Doyenne of relationship building, and I'm also the owner of Going Solo Network. If you go to goingsolonetwork.com, it's got everything that we do, and we're delighted to be able to bring all of this to you. So let's get busy because we've got a lot going on today. We have a wonderful gentleman here with us today. I'm going to bring him up because I like to show his face as we're talking about him. But we have Mike Acker here with us, and he is well known for his wonderful books that he's written. And welcome to the show, Mike.
Cece, it's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Looking forward to adding value to all of your audience.
Oh, it is great having you. Well, one of our topic of our show is going to be communication with confidence. And you've actually written a book on this. You are a keynote speaker. You're an author, an executive, and communication coach. And so tell us a little bit about your journey as to what made you now, I know you're from Mexico originally. Am I correct?
Lived in Mexico, 7 years.
You lived in Mexico, which is beautiful area. And so you live in the United States. You live in Alabama there. And but tell us a little bit about your journey as to what inspired you to, number one, be the coach that you are, the wonderful speaker, and the tremendous author, because you have 4 fabulous books out. So what inspired you to be able to start that journey?
Yeah, I like to tell people it always goes back to my parents. So my parents were entrepreneurs. They were business owners in drug smuggling. So true story, my dad and mom were world-class drug smugglers back in the time before cartels, owning planes and flying down to Colombia and other places to bring the great stuff back to the United States and avoid the DEA as it was founding. So they then had this radical life transition and ended up going into legit pharmaceutical drug entrepreneurship, pharmaceutical tongue-in-cheek coffee. So they started a coffee company right around the time of Starbucks. And so I got to see a little bit of that journey as a young boy. I got to see them present. I got to see my mom do sales pitches. And then she worked with me when I was a kid to overcome a speech impediment. So if you're listening and you feel like your communication style lacks because of something natural to you, a speech impediment, a stutter, I get it. And I had to work through that as a kid going through a speech therapist. So early on, I saw my parents lead. I saw my parents speak. And early on, I had to learn how to improve my own communication. Then right when I was getting settled, we moved to Mexico. My parents had that life transition, actually became very mission-minded Christians. They ended up serving the poor and disenfranchised in Mazatlan. They went from serving themselves, and now they were serving the poor and really taking some of the skills of learning Spanish and being all around the world to helping people in different situations. And now I was thrust into a different culture. And now I had to learn how to speak a second language. So many of my clients are from around the world. I just had a call with someone from Kuwait the other day. And so many people are learning to speak and wanting to speak with confidence in a second language, which is to them English. And I understand, because once again, I had to learn how to overcome challenges in my communication. I wasn't a natural at it. If someone's listening thinking, man, that guy's a natural, or Cece's a natural, it wasn't for me. I had to learn as a kid, and I had to work with my mom. I had to learn as a teenager and work it in Mexico. And then I moved back to the United States, gave up my dreams of what I had then planned on and living in Guadalajara and DF, and moved back to the United States. And now I had to learn American culture and how to speak to an American audience all over again. So again and again, where my communication coaching comes from is my own story. My parents worked on it with me. They modeled it for me. I had to overcome 3 significant challenges. And then I launched into a pastoral career, spoke for about 18, almost 20 years, to audiences ranging from 10 people to 10,000 people over a weekend. And so I got to do it firsthand, took the classes, got the education, got the experience. And on the side, I kept coaching people. So when I broke away from being a pastor and I went into consultative sales in corporate America, all of a sudden I was in a different world, and people were coming to me from all over the place, just asking me, just word of mouth, hey, how can I get better in my communication? So this communication practice started growing. I wrote the book. The book went way beyond I could possibly imagine. It is now the top rated book in the world on the subject of overcoming fear of speaking. Well, when that happened, clients started coming all the more. And then I had a problem, Cece. I had two jobs. I had my hobby, and I had my corporate America job. And eventually push came to shove. And my wife and I decided that we would move our primary residence from Seattle and move it down to Fairhope, Alabama, near the Gulf. So how did I get into it? It was part of my family story and part of me just taking that next step. Along the way in pastoral ministry and all the different things I've done in corporate sales and helping build practices for veterinarians, one of the things I really realized was this: I want to help people realize their potential. And so that mantra throughout my life is now what I do in communication and leadership. I want to help your audience realize their potential. I want to help singles realize their potential. I want to help couples realize their potential. I want to help business owners or entrepreneurs or corporate leaders, CEOs of multinational, multi-billion-dollar companies, whoever you are, I want to help realize your potential. And part of that is in communication, and the other part is in leadership.
Yeah, that's marvelous. Some people don't know this, or many people don't know this, is I also had a speech problem when I was a kid. I had to go to special classes, and I had like a sound, and so you have to learn to speak differently. And sometimes when I get nervous, it'll come out, or if I'm talking too fast, I have to slow myself down a little bit. But and then I'm also dyslexic. And so I didn't realize that until actually being an adult. And so, it's when I was looking at your information, I thought, what, challenges can really, if you embrace those challenges, they can uplift you into an area or an arena you would never anticipate. And here, being on the radio is certainly not one that I had thought I would end up in. But I love it. I love the no fear, absolutely overcoming the fear of speaking. And so tell us a little bit more about that. You have some principles, and I had taken some notes here with regards to it. One thing I wanted to ask you too is you say a lot in your writing, where you are is not where you stay. And my mother used to tell me, Mike, is where you're at is where you choose to be. And so I think it was kind of like the same kind of philosophy. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, even going back to my parents, it was absolutely amazing that here they were in this illicit lifestyle and they didn't have to stay there. And when they realized that it was going in a direction that they didn't want, and just that whole industry was not going in a positive way for family, they chose to uproot themselves from living in kind of a glamorous lifestyle to settling down for a little cul-de-sac. So where you are, it's not where you have to stay. Just because right now you're in a spot where it's exciting and yet it's maybe not going down the right path, you don't have to stay there. And again, I saw my parents do that. Just because you were there, you didn't have to stay there. Our work in Mexico, we were serving with a lot of disenfranchised people who often got out of education because of whatever reason. And my parents started an organization that helped them get back into education, even if they were 14 and were at first grade level. So just because you're 14 and you're not educated and you can't read, you don't have to stay there. You have a choice. The choices that we make us, and we can make choices that take us to the next spot. And when it comes to fear of communication, when it comes to nervousness and anxiety and insecurity, just because you're there in a spot where it's nerve-wracking and you don't like doing it, doesn't mean you have to stay there. That you can take action, you can make a choice, you can embrace strategies. That's what my book has, that will take you to the next place. Ultimately, one of the reasons I say that so often is because all of improvement starts with belief. If you don't believe you can improve, you won't improve. If you don't believe you can overcome something, you won't even try. So part of my goal in what I do, and especially in that book, is to motivate and encourage and inspire people to take action, that you can get to the other side of this.
That's beautiful. And I so agree with that completely, because, sometimes we're our own worst enemy, right? It's
Absolutely.
our belief factor. And sometimes we listen to things that we shouldn't be listening to. And so sometimes I just say, just put those blinders on and just keep going and if you believe it in your heart, it will happen. So you just have to keep doing that. Now you have 7 strategies, and you say it's not about us. And so
Right.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So often when we go into a communication event, the reason why we're nervous is because we're thinking about what people are thinking about. Do they like my tone of voice? Do they like my shirt? Do they like this? Do they think my content's good? What do they think about me? How am I coming across to them? And it reminds me of when we were in middle school. We go into a middle school dance, and what's happening in that moment is you walk in and, I don't know about anybody else listening, but I was this lanky, tall kid with awkward braces, and I'd walk into this space, and the thought you could easily have is, what do people think about me? Do they like my hair? Do they like my clothes? Do they like my dress? Do they like my suit? Do they like me? Meanwhile, everyone else is thinking the exact same thought. No one's thinking about you because they're too busy thinking about themselves. And when it comes to communication, this is so true. See, your audience, they don't care about you. I mean, they care about you in a general way, but they don't care about you. They're caring about themselves. The reason why someone's listening to this right now on YouTube or podcast is that you, the listener, are hoping to get something from this. You're a nice person. You hope that I had a good day, but you're not really wondering about that. Like, oh, there's Mike, look at him. And you're not diving into that. You want something for you. And if I, as a communicator, can think about, how can I help someone here on going solo? How can I help someone here advance their career? How can I help my client or my audience, my readership? How can I help with them? Then it takes a lot of stress away from me saying, well, do they like me? Do they like me? Do they like me? And so it's a huge strategy that if you can embrace it, you can move away from this place of insecurity and anxiety that comes from a self-focused point of view.
Yeah, you're so right with that. And I often say here on the station is a lot of our guests will come on and they're a little bit nervous about that and about the way they look and whatever. And I usually tell them, I don't think our audience really cares. I mean, I think they really are interested in what you have to say. And so don't worry about that. Don't. And one of my funniest shows was one where the lights went out and I actually just kept talking. So it's just, you just have to go with the flow and just not allow anything to get in the way of your beliefs. And that's exactly what you said. It's really about your beliefs. Let's talk a little bit about like overcoming the fear that we might have. Do you have any kind of, just give us a couple, if you've got a couple tips about overcoming the fear? Because a lot of people, when they start into a business or start to communicate with people, they have that little bit of fear. How can they overcome that?
Right. So usually it starts with identifying where it's coming from. And so even the first strategy in the book is this a wound that has been never covered up, never healed? And it's just every single time you get close to it, it hurts. And a lot of people, they have these undealt with fears of rejection and other things that are going on. And so first of all, any type of growth is going to come from awareness. If I'm off over here on this side of the screen and I'm talking to you and I don't realize that I'm off on that side of the screen, then I won't adjust. But if I become aware that I'm way over here, then I can make the shift over here. So awareness is so key. And for you to be aware of what's going on, that's the first one right there. Then once you're aware of it, dive into what I call, this is my framework of speaking with confidence. And it's an upcoming book I'm working on as well, where I talk about, is it your identity as a speaker? Are there internal things going on? Is it how you perceive yourself? Is it what you say? How are you organizing your thoughts? How well are you doing that? Or is it in how you say it? So once you're aware of what's going on, think through what's going to improve it. Is it working on yourself and how you perceive yourself? Is it working on your content and coming up with systems for organizing that thought? Or is it ultimately from how you do it? A lot of people, when they're looking to improve confidence, they jump to what can I do? And that's an external way of thinking about it. It is a way to get better and get more confident, because ultimately, if you increase skills, you'll increase confidence. I mean, think about it, right? If I have more skills in doing something, when I go out in front of people to do it, I'm going to do it with more confidence. But I just want to caution you, even as you improve skills in presenting, skills in speaking, that's often an external fix. And most people that I talk about and talk with are going to have an internal thing that needs to be adjusted first, the way they see themselves. So even as you do some external work, make sure you do some internal work too. Otherwise, it's like if I go out and I'm sweaty and I'm dirty and my clothes are filthy, yeah, I can go home and change my clothes and I'll look better instantly. But you know what? It's not going to change the dirt and the sweat and the grime that's on me. So don't just do exterior skills. Work on these other areas as well. When it comes to the book, I talk about several different strategies on this. That first one, know and uncover the wound. If you're suffering from that, take some time to really dive in. Like, why do I get nervous? And really go deep, to the point where I've had several people that I've worked with who go through my programs who end up going to a counselor just to go deeper into that, because I am not a licensed counselor.
We have a guest that a listener that has written in here, internal work. Wow, that's great. That's great. So, it is so true, because a lot of what happens to us and how we feel is really internal, isn't it? And so all the fears and things like that we struggle with. Well, look at here. They're watching from India. Well, thank you for that, for letting us know. We appreciate that. So we love it. So it is so true that we internalize so much stuff that we have these blockage, these fear about things. And so I think your book is really going to help many, many people out there being able to understand the reasonings and understanding why they do the things that they do, because you might get through whatever that speaking engagement is or whatever that networking that you had to go to, but you might have to do it again. And so then you're going to have that same feeling again, and
Right.
it's going to keep you, it's going to hold you back, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. A lot of people are just kind of creating temporary fixes instead of really going to the car and doing what the car actually needs, or grabbing some duct tape and binding the car together for a short period of time, which might work for a little bit, but it actually gets uglier and uglier as time goes on. So I have a lot of people who I've come to work with that are, CEOs of multinational, multi-billion, multi-million-dollar companies. And they're looking at their life going, I'm done with this. I'm done with this fear of speaking. I'm done with this nervousness. I'm done with this anxiety. How do I break through to it? And a lot of people who come are initially looking for some kind of quick answer. I always tell them, you can do the quick answer. There are some quick things that you can do, but it's not going to get you to where you need to go. Most people who have a true fear of speaking, there's more than just learning how to speak. There's learning to undo some things on the inside.
Yeah, that's so true. Very wise words there for sure. What we're going to do is take a short break. And when we come back, Mike Acker, who has written 4 different books, and they're on Amazon, and he's got a bestseller out, which is The Fear, Speak with No Fear. And so we're going to, before we go, we're going to give out all of your information, but we come back, let's talk about what you always say, you be you. And so let's talk about that when we come back. And then I also want to share all of the different books that you have, and you can touch on each one of those as to, maybe why you wrote it or what the purpose was, how it can help people and inspire them to, really kind of create that shift in their lives that they need. So we're going to do that when we come back. Everyone, we are talking with with Mike Acker. He's an executive communication coach. He's a keynote speaker and a wonderful author. He has written 4 wonderful books, which are on Amazon.com. You guys, if you want to reach out to him, his phone number is 425-280-5610. And then his email, and he'll know he loves to get emails. His email is Mike, MIKE, Mike.Acker, Acker, at steps, STEPS, 2TO, advance, ADVANCE.com. And his website, go to there because you'll find everything you need. And it's, of course, MikeAcker.com. That's MikeAcker.com. So thank you so much, Mike. Stick around with us. We're going to be right back. We're going to talk a little bit more in depth with regards to all of your other books. And I'm enjoying this very much. We've got a couple more comments. Let's just see what we have here. Here, this person says, undo something, what we do. Yeah. So that's what you were saying before, some of the things that we've experienced, we have to kind of dig deep and undo some of those things. And this person is truly appreciating everything you've saying. So this is wonderful. So thank you for the comments. We love them. You inspire us and we appreciate it. So Mike will be right back. So just hang on for 1 minute. Well, welcome back to the show, everyone. You're listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. We are the #1 internet singles network for talk, and we love that. And that's what we're doing today. We're actually talking about wonderful books that Mike Acker, our wonderful host, our wonderful guest here, has written. Just so you guys know, I am Cece Shatz, the Doyenne of relationship building, and I am the president of Going Solo Network.com. So let's talk a little bit more, Mike, because we have been really talking a lot about, I think, helping people being motivated to be able to step out of themselves to, not let their fears get in the way of really their successes, right? And so we've been talking about that. Now, Mike, I know that you're an executive and communication coach or keynote speaker, and you're a terrific author of these books that really, truly inspire those. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about the You Be You, that you mentioned a lot in your books.
Yeah. So in Speak With No Fear, one of the strategies to overcome fear of speaking is to learn how to be yourself. And this actually goes back to when I started speaking at a church originally. I was nervous about speaking to all these professionals. I was 26 years old. I was now a senior pastor. I'm speaking to doctors and lawyers and engineers and all these well-educated people who lived in the area. And they're coming to the church and they're participating. They're listening to me speak each week. And I got really nervous. And so I didn't know who I was as a speaker. I was still developing. I kind of knew who I was when I was talking to kids and teenagers, but not to real adults. And so here I'm talking to these adults, and I had to think about, how am I going to do this? So I went on this journey of trying to find my speaking voice. And I listened to several hundred podcasts and watched people and flew out and drove out to places. And every single week I'd become a different presenter. So sometimes I'd be like, yeah, guys, today we're talking about, and other times I'd get really serious. See what you got to do here. And depending on who I was listening to, I started imitating and being that person. Now, you probably don't have that extreme of a story where you're trying to imitate people to the extent I was. But what I found out is that most professionals have an avatar of who they're trying to be like when they speak. They just don't know it. So I was working with a major in the military, and she wanted to improve her communication. And I said, tell me about someone that you respect, someone that you really respect the way they talk. So she went on to talk about this guy who was older, and he was different ethnicity and different gender and all these different areas that really separates them. And then she talked about his style, and from observing her, she didn't have the same style. And I said, see, you're trying to be like someone else when you speak. And one of the reasons why you're not coming across confident is because you're becoming a poor imitation of that person instead of the best version of yourself. Let me repeat that. You will never be a great imitation of someone else, but you can be the best version of yourself. In communication, when we're trying to be like calm and cool, collected, but we're more gregarious and outgoing, if we're trying to be someone who is loud and really outspoken, but we're kind of shy and really reserved, we're going to have a hard time. And even if it's not that much of a change, but we have an idea of what a specific business professional needs to be like, or a certain type of dater needs to be like, or a certain type of husband, if we're trying to be like someone else, we're going to negate the power of really being ourselves. So what's fascinating is that when you're actually a fake version of yourself, you eventually get rejected, and it works against your confidence. You can fake it for a while, but in the inside, it's ultimately going to come crashing down, and there's going to be a gap between how people see you and how you see yourself. There's this cognitive dissonance. So what's the resolve? You be you. Explore who you are. Find out who you are. Find out what makes you tick, the external things, the internal things. Yes, improve yourself. You definitely always want to improve. We can always improve, but not changing who we are. Make the tweaks, make the adjustments, make the improvements, but come to terms with the reality. Like, I'm not T.D. Jakes. He's this famous black preacher in America. And no matter how much I tried as a 26-year-old, really pale guy in Stanwood, Washington, a rural area, I was never going to be like him. And I shouldn't try. That ultimately, when you try to be someone else, let me give you an analogy for this. I write about this in the book, Speak with No Fear. It's like holding a 10-pound weight away from your body. So if you imagine this, if you've done a front lateral raise, you grab a 10-pound weight, and even if you're extremely fit, you take that 10-pound weight and you hold it away from your body. Put my hand in front of me right now on the screen. What's going to happen is after a little while, my hand's going to start shaking because I'm far away from my body. The torque has increased. Now, if I take that same weight and I bring it close to my body, I can hold it for a couple of hours. 10 pounds, no problem, close to my chest. What you do when you're trying to be like someone else, say you listen to Cece on a regular basis, she hosts this great show, and you think, I want to be like Cece, or I want to be like that guest. What you're doing is you're holding that weight from your body because you're trying to be like someone else. You're trying to take on a different personhood. But if you learn who you are and really embrace it, yes, improve it, but embrace it and bring it closer to your chest, then that person is going to get less nervous because you've made peace with who you are. When it comes to listening to your voice, I highly encourage you to listen to your voice, record yourself and listen. And people again and again say, see, I don't want to do that. Mike, I don't want to do that. I hate my sound of my voice. I hate listening to myself. Exactly my point. How can you be confident that other people will listen to you if you won't even listen to yourself? You got to come to grips with who you are, what you sound like, what you look like, and you be you.
That is such good advice. I mean, so, and really, and throughout your life, if you're comfortable with who you are, and who you're, and I've often said is who you are yesterday is not who you're going to be. So you're constantly evolving, stepping into the person you are to become. And so, when you get grips on that, and grips on who really the core of you is if that's proper English, I don't know, but It really does shake your core and shake your future, because you just step out of yourself, and it's an awesome. I love you. I think you're awesome, and thank you so much for coming on the show here with us, because I know that anyone that listens to this broadcast certainly is going to have that shift in their lives for sure. Let's talk a little bit about some of these other books, because I'd like to let's just go through each one. And I'm not sure, and forgive me, I'm not sure the order that you've written them in, but of course we have the latest one, which is the Speak with No Fear. And you go from being nervous, nauseated, sweaty speaker to an excited, energized, and passionate presenter, which if we're having to speak in front of people, that is truly a book I think we need to read. And probably I should read that one too. But let's talk about this book here, which is Right to Speak. So tell us a little bit about that one.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was actually my second book. So Speak with No Fear is my first book and most recent book, because it's on its second edition. And then Right to Speak was the second one. And really it was meant to be just a short little pamphlet that I handed out to people on how to write to speak, how to write a presentation, how to prepare. Ultimately became more of a book, so I just released it as a book. So I have a couple colleges who use it, as well as they use Speak with No Fear to just help them get ready. So that was my second one, and a lot of fun, short. So if you have to write presentations on a regular basis, that's going to be a great guide for you.
Oh, that's great. And then we have Lead with No Fear.
Right. So this actually happened because of the pandemic, and right when the pandemic broke out, before the quarantine, I was meeting with another executive coach / speaker friend of mine, and we were just talking about how fear was gripping us, and not us specifically, but just us as a nation. And so both of us work with these incredible leaders, and we just talked about how to lead with no fear, and ultimately ended up being about this shift. How do we shift away from a place of reaction to a place of the appropriate type of leadership response? So how can we make internal subtle shifts, like going from thinking like a victim to thinking like a leader, like going from insecure to being confident, from unaware to self-aware. So overall, we just talked about these shifts that ultimately get you to this place of confidence and authority versus reactionary, fearful responses.
Oh, this is a great book, because so often, and I deal a lot with those going through a divorce, going through the recovery of divorce, and they often feel like they are victims. And so taking ownership and leadership of your life is truly a wonderful thing, and it's a very hard step to do. So I think even a book like this might very well help them to be able to step forward and step out of that feeling insecure and feeling like a victim.
Right.
I think that's very important. So this one definitely we should put on our watch list to definitely read. And then you have this one, Grow Your Soul, a 40-day guide to get unstuck, restored, and reset in faith, church, and spirit. So tell us about that one.
Yeah. So when I was about 27, 28, I was in a master's program. And as part of it, I had to write a whole bunch. And I wrote like this 40 days worth of just, I don't know, blog post sort of type writing, kind of inspirational. And I used to give it to the church when I was a pastor. So fast forward, and I got to a spot when I made the shift to corporate America. And I was just tired, honestly. After 18 years being a pastor, I'd done a lot. We built wells and started all these different things. We had food banks, we had all kinds of stuff. I was just tired. So I stepped away from pastoring, and I had this thought, I don't want to go to church. I don't want to go to church. And I've heard people say that to me many times. I'm tired. I'm worn out. And it's interesting. I had this thought to go back and reread those things I wrote when I was 28-ish. So I went back and rewrote them and found myself just kind of encouraged, inspired. And it was almost like that youthful perspective and going back to that and recapturing it. And so it was actually one of those things that really restored me to a place of wholeness and healing and just newness, and got unstuck. And now my wife and I participate in a great church, and I'm not on staff and don't want to be, but I'm loving what I'm doing. It's absolutely fun, but we embrace it. And so we were able to get to a spot of healing. I think the way that this might work when you talk about divorce, if, for example, is maybe for one point in time, you were passionately loving being married, and now you're divorced and you can't imagine ever being married again. Well, the equivalent would be a book that goes, you know what? I want to do that again. That's what it did for me.
Mhm.
And it restored me to that place. Not saying that I would do that for someone who goes through a lot of pain in that different way, but that's what it was for me. It's not a book I promote a lot. A lot of people have enjoyed it, but I don't really speak to it a lot. It was more kind of like my personal project that I released during the pandemic.
Well, it's great. You know, it's all of your books are extremely helpful, and they're not only helpful with regards to the element at hand, you know, which is, you know, communication and really moving forward in your life, but they really help you internalize and grow from within. And so, if we can step out of ourselves and grow from within, that's a blessing in itself. So, all of your books are really great. We can find them all on Amazon, or I think if we go right to his website, mikeacker.com, that's MikeAcker.com, you'll find all the information right there. And are there any last words that you'd like to share with our audience?
You know, I love that you brought up the lead with no fear, the victim part. In that first chapter, we talk about the idea of how when someone gets burned and they go through hardship, but they get physically burned, how the first thing that those hospitals do for burn victims is they actually tell them, don't call yourself a victim, call yourself a survivor. Like, you came through it, you got through it. And it's such an interesting tweak of mentality. I'm not a victim, I'm someone who survived. I'm someone who got through this. And if I survived, then I can live. And if I survive, I can thrive. And if I survive, I can lead. So if you're in a spot right now where in your nervousness and speaking or in any other area, and you feel like a victim of what has happened to you, I get it. Don't stay there. Become a survivor, someone who gets through it, and then become someone who goes from survive to thrive. I encourage you in your communication, in your leadership, in your life. Don't seek to just be a victim. Seek to be a leader.
Oh, beautifully said. And thank you so much. We really, truly appreciate you being with us here today. So your phone number, if anyone wants to reach you, it's 425-280-5610. And then, of course, your email is Mike Acker, Mike.Acker. It's MIKE.ACKER at steps, STEPS 2TO advance ADVANCE.com. And those of you that are saying, why is she spelling all this out? So when we go to audio, it's right there for everyone to have it. So we want to make sure everyone has all this wonderful information. Again, it is a joy to have you here, Mike. I truly, truly appreciate it very much. And I know that, again, you're an executive communication coach, a keynote speaker, and an author of these wonderful books. And just thank you so much. Communication with confidence. That's exactly what we want, right?
Absolutely. Hey, thank you so much, Cece, for having me on the show. And I trust that I've added value to your audience today, that you would take something from here and you would act on it.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Wow, what a wonderful show. Thank you again. You know, everyone, this was a really, truly awesome show. And I do ask you to please reach out to him and let him know that you heard the show here today. Again, his information's right there on the screen. His website is mikeacker.com. And so just reach out to him, let him know that you heard him today. Ask any questions that you need to ask that will help you move on in your life. So again, I'm Cece Shatz, the Doyenne of Relationship Building. I am the president of Going Solo Network, and we are listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. This is the Business Showcase. It's the late lunch hour. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I'll see you back here next time. Bye for now.